Hello, welcome to the episode. Look, today's episode, it really forms the backbone of the entirety of the 4D recruitment method. So much of what I've seen, so much of what I've encountered on my journey of being a recruiter. I got into recruitment in 1994. I'm not embarrassed to say that makes me a bit of an old git, but I would consider myself to be a modern old git. I'm not stuck in the past, but what I saw in 1994, what I was seeing as time progressed and I was getting more experience in recruitment, as there was more agencies arriving, the very few people who engage with agencies as clients have any real understanding as to what actually happens in the engine room of the businesses that they give jobs to. Whether they're giving temp assignments to a business to be able to get 10 people to work in a factory on Monday, or they're engaging with an executive search specialist who's going to go out and find them a CEO on $1 million a year, their actual understanding and fluency of what happens now that this brief has been completed, however it gets phrased in terms of the understanding of the process, the role, the client, all of the juice that we use to be able to get temps to turn up at 6 o'clock on Monday, or to be able to encourage $1 million CEO to move away from a set of share options and to start to think about their next challenge. Few of those decision makers would be able to give an accurate demonstration as to what is going on inside that business right now. And in part, this has been triggered as an episode because of things that I've seen on LinkedIn. Today, I saw somebody on LinkedIn take to LinkedIn to write some kind of Dear John LinkedIn update as if it's going to change clients' behaviour, which it ain't. But they still write this update saying, me, what have you done about filling this job? Client, we've given it to 3 agencies who've all agreed to 12.5%. Me, how do you feel about the quality of candidates that you're getting? Client, mixed, not particularly great, and we need to move on this quickly, so as long as you can agree to the rate. So they write this update saying, why do clients insist on blah, 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 giving jobs to multiple agencies, blah, 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 putting pressure on them in terms of prices, blah, blah, blah. Don't they realise that we're going to put less effort and attention into those jobs which have got greater risk, i.e. it's given to other agencies, and put less attention into jobs that are less rewarding, i.e. the fee has been pressurised to become lower. So I get the reason that they would write the update, but everything that they've written in the update just makes them sound like a whingy, wizened, old man, old woman moaning about things as if they can't change it, as if it's a societal issue, the kids of today, when in reality they could change it as quick as they realise. Because it just takes some sales skills to be able to interact with that client. And those sales skills may actually help us to identify, do you know what, you're getting exactly what you deserve. We're not here to make everybody want to work with us. We're here to be able to find people who actually engage with us for the right reasons because of our value proposition actually delivering what they want, which is a fix to the problem. And this person blarting on LinkedIn is simply moaning in their update about a client who is quite happy with what they've got because they're willing to put up with it. And although they're willing to put up with it, they would entertain another vendor who would be doing exactly the same thing with exactly the same behaviours at exactly the same price. I think we're headed to no deal. Or we could start to change how we interact with that organisation to help them to recognise what the real problem is. Because the problem that this person is moaning about seems to be, don't they realise I could fill that job for them? Filling the job isn't necessarily the problem. There are so many other things that are at play that are likely to be challenges and issues that they would cite as being more important than simply the transaction of getting some CVs for a job, which is why they're happy to engage with multiple agencies to see who strikes lucky. Because someone will put low effort into it. Someone will accept low reward because a CV will match a watchdog alert and they'll get sent over. And that very recruiter who's moaning would probably do the same thing. Like, they're not going to go, oh no, I'm going to reject that watchdog candidate that luckily dropped into my inbox because that would be the wrong way to fill this job. I have to do all of the hard work to be able to prove that I can find what others can't. They'd ping that over. they take the 12.5%. And I think if they charged any more than the 12.5%, they'd probably be stronging their luck. So it's for them to decide how they wish to deal with things. But the point of this whole thing, right? I know I'm starting to sound like I am just as whingy and just as geriatric in my moaning about that. I can't change them. That doesn't make them a lead for my business. They're quite happy with what they're doing, and long may they continue to enjoy the fruits of their labour. I'm here to talk to those who might want to hear about a different way to be able to deal with things. And it boils down to one, what almost feels inconsequential as a statement that clients may flop out on the table in a meeting or say to you as an earworm on the phone in an attempt to be able to either spook you or influence you. And it's as simple as other agencies are willing to do it for less. And so many people will zone in on either the beginning of that statement or the end of that statement. They'll zone in on others. Who exactly are we talking about? How long have you worked with them? What do they specialise in? How good are... they'll create some kind of question stack that is designed to create a drill down of comparison between them as a vendor and the other agencies chosen in an attempt to come across as being better. All the questions zone in on the word less, and they start talking about price justification. They create a question stack which is all about quality, and you get what you pay for in this life, and how happy are you with those CVs, and how good are those candidates, and what do you really expect when you are compressing prices in a marketplace. And only the enlightened, only those who I would consider to be the elite, are going to zone in on the word it. And when you zone in on the word it, everything that revolves around the objections, the challenges and the problems sits front and centre in the client's perception as to what it is. And until we start to investigate what exactly is it you believe you are paying for, forget what the price is, forget who the other agencies are, the fact you've got these 3 agencies on the case, and I know that you are choosing to talk to me because somewhere in this is a visible issue or a mild concern, which means that you are open to a 4th vendor. But I can't just jump in and start to sell against others. I need to really get to the root of what do you actually believe you're paying for. When you agree with a recruitment company that you will work with them, what do you believe you're actually getting? What are you accessing as a service? And then shut up and listen and ask questions and seek to really understand the position that they find themselves in, where they have multiple vendors who are providing a service to them that they consider to be ceteris paribus, i.e. all things are the same, and you're now trying to help them to think about, well, what do I believe I'm paying for? And as they think about what they believe that they're paying for, you can now get an insight as to where their perceptions of value come from. Because they may describe something that you feel, well, 12.5% sounds like a lot for that. Maybe you could engage directly with Indeed and perhaps hire a temp for 3 days to go through the CVs. Maybe you could run your own advert on your own website and then promote that on LinkedIn and then put all applications through ChatGPT to do a buzzword search to see if there is a bingo result of somebody who matches your job description. Because 12.5% sounds like a lot of money for what you perceive that you're getting. So maybe if we start to truly understand what they believe they're paying for, we'll start to have a better level of empathy to recognise how they see the world. Because they only know what they know. And we both know, you as listener, me here as podcast host, we both know what we know. And if we think a little more deeply, we might know what we don't know on a particular subject. But it may take a little bit of light in some dark corners for us to start to realise there are things we didn't know. And for somebody to start to value what you do, you need to invest your questions to make sure that you understand, what do I know that they know about the value of recruitment? What is on the peripheries of their knowledge, which may be things that they realise that they don't know? Like when I ask them a challenger question of, What do you believe they're doing for you right now? You say you have 3 agencies who are instructed on this, and you instructed them a week ago. What do you believe they're doing for you right now that it is day 7? What were they doing for you at the end of day 2? How had things developed in their business, and what were they doing for you on day 5? And as you start to ask questions that suggest that maybe what you do on day 2 is the build up to what you decide to start to do on day 5, which ultimately leads to the decisions as to what you're doing on day 7, they may live in a world where they think, well, aren't you just doing the same thing every day, hoping to get lucky? And as we pay attention to their language, and we start to calibrate how certain they are about what they believe that they know, like, think about this, people. Imagine saying to a client, I don't have to imagine, because this is something we used to ask my clients as a recruiter, but I would suggest to them, just take a moment and think about this question. What do you believe they're doing for you right now? And I would listen with intent to the words that they would use. Hopefully, Jeremy, they're prioritising this because they know that it is urgent that we find somebody. And I'm not going to zone in on prioritisation. I'm not going to zone in on the urgency with which they find somebody. I'm going to zone in on the word hopefully. Keith, so in this instance, my client is called Keith. Keith, you say hopefully. What do you think could stop them from doing that? What else could they be doing? What other things may have their attention? How does it make you feel when you realise that you're not sure what they're doing, given in your own words, it is urgent and critical you find somebody? Now, I've said this to many people, and I've had feedback from executive search partners who've said to me, Jeremy, that question. So when you shared the question with me, it was such an obvious question. I wasn't sure why I'd never asked it before. And because it was so obvious and I didn't know why I hadn't asked it, I almost talked myself out of asking it because it's so obvious. If it was going to work, I would have used it by now. But when I did it, when I said, thinking about the last conversation that you had with them, what do you believe they're doing for you right now? And that search partner in that search firm said to me, at that moment, the client had to respond with, I don't know. And also, as the client said, I don't know what they're doing, he said, facially, I could see they had started to change their perceptions of the value of the choices that they'd made and had started to realise they were a victim of their own decisions, not falling foul of what they might consider to be a poorly performing specialist agency. It's easy to abdicate the blame to the agencies when actually much of the issue sits with the decisions that you make. So you remember what I said? The problem isn't the vacancy. The problem is how this person has come to making a decision based upon what they know that they know. And because they know what they know, they act upon that with their best intentions and decide, you know what's in my favour? What's in my favour is creating competition between 3 agencies. Do you know what else is in my favour? I'm more likely to get lucky because if I've got multiple agencies who are out there, one of them is more likely to trip over the right candidate. And do you know what else is in my favour? Agreeing a smaller fee so that the cost that I'm carrying, particularly if the person leaves, has less of an impact on the business. So they make their decisions based upon what they know that they know. And they encounter people who claim to be salespeople who work in recruitment, who don't ask enough questions to help them to start to recognise these are the things that I now know that I don't know. I don't know what they're doing right now. And then things that they didn't know that they didn't know. How confident are you that they are as committed to you as you believe they were at the point of instruction? And how long are you willing to put up with this before you decide enough is enough? Because I feel my job is to create a displacement of thought, I feel my job is to help them to make a better decision for themselves. My job is not to convince them. My job is not to blag them. My job is not to show them that I'm better than the other agencies. That's not my job. My job is to help them to do that for themselves. 99 times out of 100, my best friend on the journey to being able to do that is a question. It's not telling them what I do. It's not creating comparative questions that might revolve around leading to, well, let me tell you what I'm going to do. It's about how I ask them questions to get them to think deeply about, what is my goal? What are the challenges that I'm facing? How have I constructed the situation that I'm currently in? How happy am I in the situation that I have constructed? And how long would I be willing to put up with this before I changed? Because the worst possible decision that they could make is to have a fourth agency at 12.5% who is replicating those same results. And again, we have to come back to being able to think about when we get to that point and somebody says, okay, I'm with you. I don't know what they're doing right now. It does cause me concern given how urgent it is to fill this. I don't know how long I would be willing to put up with this before enough is enough, but I'm now open to hear what do you do? And this is where we can show. We start to show what we can do. We don't tell them, we show them. And the more collateral we have to help us to be able to show the components that make up the work that we do, to help us to be able to find people, to engage with people, to assess capability, to be able to assess potential, to assess stickiness. Things like skills, things like qualifications. ChatGPT can do that. Let's talk about the human elements of what we can do. And as we show people, showing may require more presentation skills. And with more presentation skills, as I start to present to them a tool, a checklist, a process, or I present to them an idea. Hey, here's an idea. Have a look on LinkedIn. How many messages have you received from recruiters trying to get your attention? How many of these have you actually applied to? How many of these people who claim to have a role that is perfect for you have you even entertained the idea of responding to? And what stops you from doing that? Because that, they claim, is the ideal opportunity for you. And then when you start to show, well, let me show you how I would construct the message. Let me start to show you how I would increase engagement. Hey, let's do a search on a job board. Let's search to see how many jobs are out there today for this type of role. Let's see if we can find the adverts for those 3 agencies who are at 12.5%. Let's see how they stand out. Let's see if they engage with people. Let me show you how I would write an advert differently that is designed to talk with the right person rather than simply project at them the requirement that you've got. So there are so many things that start to bring value to our ability to create that differentiation. Their receptiveness to our ability to show our difference is directly linked to the quality of the questions that we ask that helps to be able to pull through the things that they believe that they know. What are you paying for when you engage with an agency? Jeremy, when I pay to an agency, what I'm paying for is access to the candidates that they've got so that I've got CVs of people and candidates to be able to interview. I'm paying for the hire. So you're paying for the placement. What else are you paying for? What do you feel are the components that create a successful placement? If you became the managing director of a recruitment agency, what would you do that might enhance the quality of the experience for your customers? How could you increase the success ratios for your customers? And as our questions help us to get inside their minds, to understand how they think about things, how they value things. And we then turn their attention to based upon where you're at, what are they doing for you right now? And we explore that. And then we extend that into a more meaningful conversation about, so what actually would become important to you? What would you want them doing? What do you think is stopping them from doing that? How do you feel about the communication that has been shared in terms of their journey to finding the right people? What data have they given to you? And as we start to show them there are things that they didn't know that they didn't know because they hadn't even thought that a recruitment company would do that thing, because their experience to date has suggested it doesn't. I never get to hear about any of the people who get rejected. I only get the ones who are recommended. And the ones who get recommended don't always meet my expectations. So I can't even imagine what's going on inside their business and who actually they're not showing to me. So I hope as I've gone through this download, you've got a really clear understanding of what I'm suggesting here. Talk about the elephant in the room. What is it? What is it you are paying for? What is it you have agreed to access for 12.5%? What is it that they are doing for you right now? What would you want them to be doing for you? How long are you willing to put up with this? And do you recognise that you have become a victim of the decisions that you've made rather than falling foul of working with the wrong agencies? Because those agencies are right for somebody out there, and maybe even the process that you're following is right for somebody out there. We need to make sure that the right clients are working with the right recruiters so that everyone feels as though what they have is some form of partnership to a mutually agreed destination that benefits both. And the better you get at being able to communicate to people, this is my it, the easier it is for them to compare it to what other people's definition of it actually is. And my experience is very few clients really know what it is, because very few recruiters have taken the time to actually unpack what it is that they do. And they simply dump a load of features on top of the client, expect the client to be able to understand the fact that we're going to advertise on all of the main job boards, we're going to do some outreach work to the people who are on our database, we will be interviewing those people on your behalf, and we will be doing some additional headhunting to find people who aren't looking for a job. And who walks away from that, having never worked in recruitment, thinking there is a benefit in being shown people who don't want a job? Which seems to be the benefit that some people share as to why headhunting is so valuable. We'll go out and find people who aren't looking for a job. You know, I want one quite soon. So the semantics of what I'm saying gets lost for some people, because sometimes the consideration is I'm too pedantic, but that's because you know recruitment so well inside your own body, you struggle to be able to filter things and remove your knowledge. So what you know is far greater than what many clients know that they know, but because clients only know what they know, they think they know everything. And because they think they know everything, they encounter recruiters who don't know as much as they do, because those recruiters don't truly know what they're selling. And it just endorses the fact that recruitment agencies in general aren't worth what their original term said, and you're in a better position if you put them in competition than you are if you use one on their own. But recruiters are getting really good at moaning about it on LinkedIn. So if you want to change these things, people, rather than moan about it on LinkedIn, come find me. If you moan about it on LinkedIn, you feel like I'm talking about you, drop me a message and I'll let you know. See you on another episode very soon.